Welcome. I call to order the business meeting of the Cave Creek Unified School District Governing Board. It is Tuesday, June 15, 2021, and it is 6 o'clock. Item 1.2, roll call. All 5 board members are present. There is a quorum. Mr. Leedy and Dr. Monroe are present from the executive leadership team. Item 1.3, formal adoption of the agenda. Is there a motion to approve the agenda as presented?
So moved.
Second.
President Hatcher, I would request that we pull out item 4.2 and place that at the end of new business after the item 7.
Okay. And I would also like to make an amendment. I would like to pull 5.25 out of action consent and discuss it after we've voted on action consent. So both of us have made motions. Is there a second to Member Brown's motion to move 4.2?
I'll second.
Okay. It's been moved and seconded. All right. And then I've got an amendment. So is there a second to approve my amendment?
I'll second.
All right. It's been moved and seconded to approve the agenda as amended with 2 amendments. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? The motion carries. The agenda is approved as amended. Item 1.4, call to fill out form for call to the public. Ms. Lynch, are there any forms? All right. Item 1.5, Pledge of Allegiance. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Item 1.6, President's Report. I just have very brief comments. I would like to thank everybody who made prom, the 8th grade promotion, and the graduation a success. They were just fabulous events. I didn't go to the prom, but I went to the other 2. And it was so nice to see the kids able to have those, their promotions and graduations. And the graduation ceremony was just fantastic. So thank you to all who made that happen. Board comments?
I just concur with what Beth said. The graduation and the promotion were awesome, and it was great to be able to see the kids gather. And all of the seniors that went to prom had an amazing time, and they really appreciated the opportunity to gather finally after all of this pandemic stuff.
I would like to offer my belated congratulations to the Cactus Shadows graduating seniors, the Sonoran Trails 8th grade promotion students, and our preschool kids for their promotions. My wife and I had received notice that we were able to go to Maryland to attend my daughter, Shelby, Cactus Shadows class of 2014. Her graduation from law school. So as much as I regretted missing the activities and events here, it was nice to go see Shelby and participate. Limited availability or limited participation, but we were able to participate her law school graduation, which was very nice.
I will add, being a new board member, that being able to do the graduation and the 8th grade move-up ceremony, that was about the coolest thing that I've seen. So it was very good to do that. And I did just this past Friday, just want to mention that I was able to attend the ASBA Summer Institute for leadership for school board. So got to see some really good things about that. So and just add that.
Yeah, I also agree. As being a new board member, that's definitely the highlight, being able to attend graduation and promotion. And then also I have a daughter that's been participating in ECS the last couple of weeks, and it's been nice to see how smooth that's running and how many children are participating. It's fun to see things come back a little bit more normal.
Thank you, Board. Item 1.7, Superintendent's Report, presented by Dr. Monroe.
President Hatcher, members of the board, thank you. Each board member stole my thunder. As the superintendent, one of the things I celebrate the last 3 to 4 weeks is I get to see people's faces. So I have only seen up above the nose for so many people for the last few months, and we had a very successful end to the school year. As the board is aware, I think families and students left for summer with a very good taste in their mouth, and we're currently in the middle of planning for not just a normal return to the school year, but a better normal is kind of what I preach in the fall. And so we're very excited of where we are. There's a lot of principals and teachers getting some well-needed rest. And so, but August will be here before we know it. But I'd like to throw out just a few things in my superintendent's board report for the board. As you know, I've been in Tucson since Sunday. It was my privilege to be there and celebrate with Aaron Patinato, Mr. Aaron Patinato. He received an award from the Arizona School Administrators for the state of Arizona as the Distinguished Principal Award. So there's only one of those awards given to elementary principals in the whole state, and Mr. Patinato was the recipient of that. That was really special. He was there with his wife. I tried to work board member Busby, and try and get the board down there if you wanted to make the Tucson drive, but I think people were so excited to be at an in-person event that they weren't allowing anyone else because of capacity. But we're really proud of our principals, and I'm really proud of the load that they carried this year with our teachers and staff and keeping our schools open and a high level of learning. Graduation was a hit, and we had 467 seniors walk across the stage. We're so grateful that we could provide some end-of-the-year activities for our seniors. We had more than 400 seniors attend prom, and that we could almost have a return to these normal activities at the end of the year. We did have more than 3,000 people in attendance at the graduation. So I know that was a very festive and a celebratory night, and I was very grateful to our staff for putting that together, and the parents, because our class of 2021 deserves it. We had close to 400 eighth graders at the promotion ceremonies, and as the board is aware, we had 4 small ceremonies so that we could fit into the Fine Arts Center. A few other numbers for the board. The class of 2021, they've earned about $15.5 million in cumulative scholarships to this point. That's been reported by the students. So that is a huge, huge success. Our students apply for scholarships and they receive them because of the wonderful individuals they are. The Superintendent's Challenge, as you know, that's community service hours. Students at Cactus Shadows High School this year accumulated over 24,000 hours of community service, benefiting the organizations and the people around us, which is tremendous. I mean, we talk about a scholarship amount, but then we talk about the amount of time that kids are volunteering to just make the world a better place. And at Sonoran Trails Middle School, we had more than 1,000 hours, and that's a smaller program that we're looking to really boost up. But more than 1,000 hours of community service was provided by our middle school students. You've heard of the CS Press. That's our Cactus Shadows High School newspaper. They won a Pacemaker Award this year. In addition, for their 100th anniversary, the National Scholastic Press awarded 100 publications the top all-time Pacemaker winners, and our own CS Press was one of them. I'd also like to give a shout out to Mr. Leedy and his department, the Association of School Business Officials International. They sent a letter to Cave Creek congratulating the district on receiving the ASBO International Certificate of Excellence in Financial Reporting Award for our fiscal year 2020 Comprehensive Annual Financial Report. So the letter basically said that our participation in the comprehensive the Certificate of Excellence program is a testament to the district's commitment to transparency and high-quality financial reporting. So I appreciate Mr. Leedy and his department.
Yep.
All right, a few fun ones. I'm going to go down here and grab the mic. Testing. Gina, you want to come stand up here with me? I'd like to read something about Gina Durbin, who is... I know, no, come on up. I don't even know if Gina knew we were going to do this. So Gina is retiring here. How many days left? 15. 15.
Oldest son gave me a retirement countdown
Oh, okay, a countdown calendar. So I'd like to read something about Gina, and we'd like to recognize her, okay? This is kind of a little shortened bio, okay? Gina started her teaching career in Illinois, where she was a special education teacher. She moved to Arizona in 1979 and was employed by the Osborne School District as a middle school special ed teacher. She received her master's in counseling during her time there, and she had the opportunity to be on the planning committee for the new opening of Osborne Middle School, where she got the job as the middle school counselor. Several years later, Gina had the opportunity to take a job at Desert Arroyo Middle School as she had moved to this area. Part of her responsibilities when she came to Cave Creek were to take on the task of prevention coordinator, along with her duties as middle school counselor. Counseling, if anyone knows Gina, counseling and prevention has always been her passion. And the position grew into an administrative position where she took on the position of Director of Student Support Services, which focused on student health, safety, wellness, prevention, human growth and development, and social emotional learning. Many programs, special events, developing a comprehensive counseling program, parent forums, and grant writing happened during that span. 9 years ago, the district was going through some financial difficulties, so her position as Director of Student Support Services was combined with the Director of Community Education. So she took on this new responsibility, which was ECS. Gina has enjoyed all of the amazing opportunities, relationships, and supporting students, staff, and families for 43 years. 29 of them here in our district. Amazing. She's a proud mother. Is that right? Did I mess something up? No. Okay. Yeah, okay. She started real young. She's a proud mother of 3 sons who attended Cave Creek schools from kindergarten all the way through, and has a grandson who will be a future Falcon on down the road. She is not sure what life after Cave Creek will be, but plans to stay connected in some way with her passions. Gina, we wish you a happy retirement. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you.
Gina. All right, Tim, come on up. Yeah, the principal's office, right? So let me read about Mr. Leedy. Tim has been in school finance in Arizona since 1985, most recently serving as our chief financial officer. He has been married to Bonnie Golden of Half Moon Bay, California for 47 years. He has 4 grown children and 11 grandchildren, all living in the Phoenix area. Lucky guy. He worked in small school districts from the Grand Canyon to large districts such as Deer Valley, from Page in the north, Douglas to the south, and Lake Havasu to the west. Over the past 36 years, he has seen many changes in school finance, including the genesis of the charter school movement, the passage of Prop 301, and many changes to the Education Code in Title 15. He had his beginnings in public schools as a school board member in southern Arizona in 1982, where a wonderful superintendent coached him into attending the Arizona Association of School Business Officials meetings in Tucson to learn more about school funding. That was your downfall, huh? Yeah. Through networking in that organization, he found his first job in school finance. His passion has always been to be a part of the team that works behind the scenes in food service, transportation, technology, maintenance, construction, human resources, and finance. I really like this part. To support teachers' teaching and students' learning, to ensure that there was more budget than expenses, and see if you can really do more with less every year. He's looking forward to the next chapter, spending more time with his grandchildren, traveling with his wife, fishing, and logging quality time on his porch swing in the pines of the White Mountains. Tim, thank you so much. We wish you a great retirement. And that is my superintendent's report.
Thank you. Item 2, presentations, information reports. 2.1, Education and Community Services Department Excellence Awards and Presentation. Presented by Dr. Court Monroe and Ms. Gina Durbin.
Gina, is Brent here? No, he wasn't able to make it. Okay. So I'd like to recognize 3 individuals, and first I'm going to start with Brent, our student recognition. So I still want to read about Brent, even though he's not here. Is that okay, Gina? Yes, yes. So Brent, there you are. We love you, buddy. Okay, Brent Priest is being recognized for an outstanding ECS student. He came to us at the age of 16 from Cactus Shadows, and he was a teen aide at Desert Sun Academy for the Coyote Club. He jumped right in and has been an amazing asset to our clubs and summer camp programs. He's great at setting up, breaking down, and everything in between. The students adore him, and he can easily transition from helping someone with their schoolwork, playing a board game, or playing soccer in the field. He has worked at multiple sites and is a true team player. He has grown into a responsible, trustworthy, and reliable staff member. He graduated this year and was recently promoted to program leader of the summer camp. Thank you, Brent, for all your hard work and dedication to Kids Club. Let's give Brent a round of applause. All right, Elaine Adrian. Come on up, Elaine. I'm going to read about you, too, if that's okay. Yeah, can you face this way? ECS is proud to acknowledge Elaine Adrian for our Outstanding ECS Community Award. She has been involved with our department for over 19 years, starting out as a volunteer, then a consultant, and moved on as our staff member overseeing ECS special projects. Elaine was and still is very flexible in assuming any task given to her. She is a very active liaison with Kiwanis and its STEM projects, Scully Learning Center, Sonoran Arts League, and the outreach to students and the community. She assisted with the ECS Literary Contest, our community collaborative Art in the Garden annual event, assisted with the publication of Artsbeat magazine, just to name a few. When you see student art displayed in the governing boardroom, the Fine Arts Center lobby, and Desert Foothills Library, it's all attributed to Elaine's hard work and dedication to these special projects and recognitions. Thank you, Elaine, for truly being ECS's #1 advocate. Congratulations. Let's give you this award. Evelyn Holbrook, come on up, Evelyn. All right. We recognize and appreciate Evelyn Holbrook as our ECS staff for our Staff Member Award. Evelyn came to Cave Creek as the very first community education director in 1989, right? Close enough. Her vision came true as she has spearheaded so many successful community education programs for our students and community members, bringing art, music, drama, reading, and math, and academic enrichment opportunities to life. She also brought on our Kids Club, before and after school program, and Cave Creek's own on-site preschool programs. Evelyn oversees our Fine Arts Center, booking numerous art, music, and drama exhibits and performances. Editing and producing the well-known Artsbeat magazine since 2007, 27 issues, is just another example of how she values the fine arts. Words cannot express how much this lady has dedicated her life to community education in Cave Creek Unified. There is one and only one Evelyn Holbrook, and her legacy will live on for many more years to come. Thank you, Evelyn.
There we go. President Hatcher, Dr. Monroe, and members of the governing board, I'm really thrilled to be here. I know it's hot, the hottest day, right, in June. I think we did hit 217. But I have a wonderful, amazing department. Not all of them are here tonight, but I'm going to give you a little brief snapshot of the things that we are proud of. And thank you, Member Walker, for your nice comment about our ECS summer programs, because last year we unfortunately had to do the kind of the Ducey daycare that we called it, and we weren't able to do the programs like we have for so many years. So we're so thrilled to be back in the swing of things. So thank you for that comment. So here are our goals. We support district schools in meeting achievement goals because we have always been a collaborative partner with Cave Creek School District. We support lifelong learning in our community through the programs that we offer, whether it's preschool, enrichment, our special projects, or enrichment and kids club. And then, of course, we always follow the same goal of inspire excellence. So for those of you, maybe hopefully you're familiar with ECS, but here's, what are we? We have 6 preschools. We have 1 at every elementary school. We have 2 at Desert Willow. And we are licensed by the Arizona Department of Health, and we also follow all the guidelines of the Department of Health. We are, our preschools and our curriculum are aligned to the Arizona Early Learning Standards, and we do whatever the focus is at the school, our preschools follow. Like we have the immersion program at Desert Willow. We do arts and drama at Black Mountain. We have STEM at Lone Mountain, et cetera. So we've always tried to work and collaborate with that principal and the programs so that we are making sure that those kids, we want them, we're the first shot at those kids and we want to keep them. So we try to do whatever we can so that they continue, and most of them do, unless they move out of the state. For our before and after care, we call it Kids Club. We have those also, 1 at every elementary school. Those people get up at 6 in the morning and they're here until 6:30 at night. They do have that break during the day, but they're always there. They're the first ones there to open up the doors for our families who have to have a place for our students, for their children, because they need a place to go. And they work, and most of our families work in Phoenix, so they do drop off quite early. So we're very thrilled that we have those programs available for our parents. They are also licensed by the Department of Health, and we offer crafts, athletics, SEL, we have games, we have homework assistance. We try to make it creative as best as we can because we know the kids are in school all day, but we want to be able to enhance their before and after school opportunities also. Our enrichment program, we have 3 catalogs. So we have spring enrichment, which we are so excited we were able to actually do in person this past spring because we were not allowed to do that before because of COVID. But prior, we have always had enrichment all summer, all fall, and all during spring. And we have a wide variety of classes. We always say we are all ages, all interests, all years. So we go anywhere from pre-K all the way to adult, and have been very successful with our enrichment classes. And I don't know if you've had an opportunity to look at our website, but just see the amazing things that we offer in Kids Club, preschool, and enrichment. And it'll just be like, wow, these people go through a lot of hard work to make sure that they are offering quality programs. In addition to that, we started this a few years ago. We do have opportunities for our parents during fall and spring break so that they have a place for their child to go to. So we offer programs during that time. We didn't get to do the night owls. That is like a parent night out, like a parent date night. Once a month, we offered that for our parents. We always have a theme to go on to that. That'll come back in the fall. And we have that at each school. We offer that once a month for parents to kind of get a break. We've had wonderful relationships with Kiwanis, the YMCA, Neighbors in Need, the Food Bank, Sonoran Arts League, the Scully Learning Center, Foothills Caring Corps, the library. They have been great partners. They have sat on our advisory board and given us input in supporting our programs. And also, like when we were talking about Elaine doing the art projects, they have been opened up their doors to let us hang student art, our student art from our students in our schools at their places. In addition, I had the privilege, I guess what Dr. Monroe said, I started out as a counselor and then kind of moved up to Director of Student Support Services. Of course, prevention has also been my passion. So when I took on this position 9 years ago, ECS embraced me to allow prevention to be a part of our program too. So with that, We had counseling, we had school safety, we offered support groups. I worked with the counselors and the social worker, the nurses. We offered diversion programs for our high school and middle school students. I was part of human growth and development, social emotional learning, and we've offered forums for our parents. This year, we still continue to do that. We had Zoom parent meetings and was quite pleased with how many people this year actually came on board. I used to do them monthly, then I ended up doing more like every other month. But we basically meet our community needs. And I wanted to give you a little snapshot. So this is 1920. Of all of our programs, we had 2,390 enrollments during school year 1920. We were doing well, things were going, and of course then the pandemic hit. So, but even if you look at last year, from July to May, we had 1842 enrollments in our programs. So, you know, we're taking a little dive, but we are building up. Second semester, when we got to open the doors, you know, I mean, our preschools are already filled for next year. So we're doing well. We had 132 parents this year when I offered parent forums that attended those. And so far, and actually this isn't probably accurate because when I wrote this for the presentation was like 2 or 3 weeks ago. But at that time we had 1,284 enrollments so far in our summer programs, and they have increased because we are full. Our summer programs are full, and we have some little wiggle room in enrichment, but not a lot. Okay, so how does ECS support CCUSD? And a lot of times I don't know if people realize this, but in school year 1920, we supported the Cave Creek School District and all the schools and the programs that totaled $565,000 or $565,620. Now, obviously, that was part of my salary. It was a salary for, we pay for a student activity specialist here in the district. We pay this annual movie license so that all schools can have movies on those days when they're wanting to, maybe it's like the last week of school or maybe it's right before Christmas, but we pay for the movie license. We pay for a salary for a Hispanic liaison. All of our employees that have children that want to utilize our programs get a scholarship, and that is something that a discount. They get a 15% discount for all of our programs. Preschool gets an additional 15 because thanks to Kiwanis, they match that. So our staff who have preschool age students get a 30% discount for our programs. The Arts Beat magazine, and I was wrong in saying it earlier with Evelyn, but 39 issues of this magazine. So if you haven't seen this is phenomenal. Obviously, we no longer do this, but it's a great magazine that has gone district-wide, community-wide. It basically features our young artists, whether they be literary artists, dance, theater. It's amazing, and the support that we got from the community in publishing this. So that was really attributed to Evelyn Holbrook and Elaine that worked on that, Elaine Adrian. We also paid for a community specialist project, and that was basically our outreach. And Peach Jar, if you're familiar with that, we've taken care of that. And for the last 3 years, not this past year, but prior to that, we sponsored the administrative retreat that the superintendent had for all the administrators to kind of a boost off for the next year. This year, we received $332,282 in grants, and that was for social emotional learning. It was for school safety, so that the high school has an SRO, and there he is. High school health and wellness grant, that was for 3 years. We got money for kids to try to help them make better choices and to promote health and making wise choices. And then we've received, that also included our preschool staff and community scholarships, Lowell Observatory for our preschool STEM program. And then this year so far, we're at $353,348 that we have given back to the district. And we are finally, as we had some difficult decisions earlier on this year with Tim, as we lost a lot of money. We are totally 100% fee-based, and so we struggled. We struggled because we didn't have students in our programs, but we are coming back. we're doing a lot better now than we were this time last year. So does anybody have any questions about our programs or anything that you want to know about ECS? Okay, with that, we put together a little short video just to kind of, it's my way of saying thank you to a great staff, thank you for a great program, and thank you for CCUSD.
President Hatcher, if I could just say one thing. When I came to the district just 6 short months ago, I was amazed, and I'm still amazed at the amount, the scope of work that is done out of educational community services, and that takes good leaders and good staff. In larger districts, just so the board is aware, the work that they do is 3 or 4 departments. And so the fact that they have taken on, the scope of this work into one department and then done it at a super high level is tremendous. And the financial brain in the superintendent says obviously they help bring in revenue, but the more important human side of my brain says, look at all the lives that they've touched over the years. Look at all the kids' lives that they've touched and families' lives, and that takes great staff and great leadership. So thank you guys so much. Gina, thank you. You guys have done a tremendous job. So I just wanted to offer that up.
Yes, and I'd like to say the same thing. Thank you, Ms. Durbin, and thank you, Ms. Holbrook. When I worked at Desert Willow, I could see the after-school stuff and the before-school stuff. So I know those kids were so engaged, doing so many things. And I have to be honest with you, I didn't realize all you did until we read our board books. I was blown away. And, you know, what you've done, as Dr. Monroe said, in a district this size is just amazing. So thank you so much.
Yeah, I agree. As a parent, my number one go-to is when those books come out. I'm like, okay, what things can I sign the kids up that are convenient, being within our small community? And I've always, I have one student super involved in the arts, and I always feel like that's the best way to bridge the community with the schools, and just all the work that you guys do through the Fine Arts Center and the Sonoran Arts League. It just is extra special, so thank you.
Gina, you've made such a huge difference in this community. All of the programs that you've brought in, when you leave, you're going to leave huge shoes to be filled. And this is sort of an admission from my own side. One of my first times that I was ever on Cactus Shadows campus was when I was enrolling my son in preschool. And at that time, it was, you know, like over where the cheer room is. And the very first person that I encountered was Jenny. And Jenny, you were like my hero. And so I carried with me, and it left me with such a positive impression of your whole department. I can't say enough. I mean, obviously Adam is no longer a preschool kid, but it's that first impression makes such a huge difference. And because of that, I've just been such a huge advocate. So kudos to you, your whole department. And I can't thank you enough for all that you guys do for this community and our students.
I just have to add for myself how this has touched us. My son and his girlfriend used to work in the after-school programs. They are now married, and my grandson will be starting in the preschool at Desert Willow. So again, thank you for setting all that in motion, and I appreciate everything that you guys have done. It's really amazing.
Yeah, your program touched my family also. My son is a brand new third grader at brand new Lone Mountain Elementary. Came home one day with a permission slip. He wanted to do chess club after school. And we're like, well, okay, we'll give it a shot. And took to it really well, and it was something that he enjoyed when he was at Lone Mountain. Now you fast forward 10 years, he's been out of high school. For the last 3 years, he now works as a instructor at the chess club, and he goes out. He has 6 different schools that he goes out and teaches. It was this year obviously was a little tough, but he enjoys it, and I think he got that from the ECS program that he went to years and years ago.
Well, I want to just make one final comment, because you guys really just making those comments really made my evening, because, we can sit here and we know we do good things and we know we make impacts on family and student lives, but just hearing that all of you, that ECS has impacted you personally, just really touches me. So thank you very much. I appreciate it. And thank you for the opportunity to let me present tonight.
Thank you. And community services, you're welcome to stay for the rest of the meeting if you'd like, or not. Item 3, public comment, there are none. So item 4, presentations, information reports, 4.1, gifted scope and sequence, presented by Dr. Court Monroe.
As required by districts participating in the Elementary and Secondary Education Act, Cave Creek is required to complete a self-assessment annually to ensure that our programs are in compliance with all applicable statutes, regulations, and applications. This year we are in cycle 5, monitoring instrument, and one of the things that's required under cycle 5 is to provide the current gifted scope and sequence that must be board approved and submitted to ADE. Admittedly, this snuck up on me a little bit, President Hatcher and the board. So I do want to give props to the Teaching and Learning Department as well as Dr. Jensen for getting this on the agenda. So the board will be voting on this, but in an attempt to summarize it a little bit, I'll go through just a few quick slides, and this basically entails like what is our gifted program, primarily focused on the elementary. What are we doing, and kind of what have we done? So next slide, Tim. So as the board is aware, gifted education is in law. Arizona Revised Statute, Title 15 has a definition for gifted education and gifted pupil. One thing I do want to point out to the board that although the law is in place, the law does not prescribe the model that a district uses to serve their gifted learners. So models vary across different districts and different age levels. Next slide. How do we identify students for the gifted program in the elementary grades? I would be remiss if I didn't say I believe, and we believe, that every student is gifted or exceptional at something. However, we do know that there's a definition for being receiving those services as gifted. So for the sake of formally identifying gifted students for state reporting, the board is probably aware that we do blanket testing for all of our second graders with the COGAT. I believe the COGAT stands for Cognitive Ability Test. So that's given to all the second graders. Is that right? We also offer the COGAT 3 different times a year for parents who are interested in registering their student if they're in 3rd, 4th, 5th, or 6th grades. And that is how they're identified if they score at a certain threshold. As the board is aware, how do we support our gifted learners? Well, in our district, we group our kids heterogeneously. As they get into the middle schools and the high schools, they start to track a little more, and that's one thing that you'll see in the future, governing board members, is trying to identify some honors and pre-AP tracks at our middle school level, as well as into the high school. That'll be something we have under review through committee work this year. To continue to challenge our kids at a high level. I would even say those students who are gifted, and even those who don't have the designation, but for parents who so choose for their kids to be in those courses. Teachers receive annual training, and I would say the annual training is something we need to revisit. Obviously, this COVID year was very interesting. However, we need to make sure that we're helping prepare teachers to be able to target their instruction. As the board is aware, teachers teach students who have all different kinds of special needs. And so as a school district, we need to make sure we provide materials and training to the teachers to be able to do that. The Creative Inquiry Program, which the board probably knows more about than I do, as I'm still learning, is the program for 3 through 6, where the teacher designs open-ended, cross-curricular, project-based learning tasks to really enrich and extend the learning of the kids. Typically gifted learning, there isn't a separate curriculum. Typically they use the same curriculum that's just enriched and stretched to higher levels. We may look at a curriculum piece moving forward, and that will be part of our kind of program evaluation this year. There's a pull-out model for gifted students this year. When the pandemic happened, I was told that there used to be, we used to bus the students to Sonoran Trails. However, that stopped when the pandemic happened, and based on feedback from principals and teachers and parents, we're now going to have the teacher travel to each of the elementary schools. That way that there's a lot less loss of instructional time for the students sitting on the bus. So the creative inquiry teacher will actually travel to each of the elementary schools, and the parents will have the option to have their kids pulled out for extra enrichment and gifted that day. As I mentioned, students in 7th through 12th grade classrooms, they can start to join courses to really meet their academic needs and advanced courses. I do think this is an area of growth for us, starting at Sonoran Trails Middle School into our high school track, is how can we get those kids into, as I mentioned, more honor-based courses, perhaps giving high school credit at the middle school level. And continue to challenge our gifted learners and all of our learners. Next. As all of our teachers work with gifted students, they're to receive annual training. They will receive annual training this year. Training comes in a lot of different forms, especially with this COVID year. It can be a day-long professional development, an hour-long professional development. It can be a workshop. It can be online. It can be educational articles, coaching. One thing we're trying to do with our creative inquiry teacher is to expand our reach with our parents for the program and also expand our training to the teachers. So there'll be a monthly classroom tips that goes out to K-8 teachers. These are low-hanging fruit practices that they can put into place in their classroom on how to work with gifted learners. Next. And then, as I mentioned, parent and family support. We'd like to have more enrichment type events for families each year and be able to provide research and literature. Raising a child who is gifted is very challenging for a parent. And I think we can fulfill our role to help those parents know strategies they can use for students who are exceptional. And because sometimes, as the board is aware, their behavioral tendencies are quite different than other students. And then we'd also like to have electronic newsletters that feature programming and opportunities for families of gifted parent groups across the valley that we can connect our parents with so that they can help. When their gifted student never has a clean room, there's actually research and there's reasons behind that. And sometimes parents don't know that. And so we can help our parents with that. I'd like to read this quote from Carol Ann Tomlinson. I'm not going to paraphrase it. I'd like to just read it. What it takes to teach gifted learners well is actually a little common sense. It begins with the premise that each child should come to school to stretch and grow daily. It includes the expectation that the measure of progress and growth is competition with oneself rather than competition against others. It resides in the notion that educators understand key concepts, principles, and skills of subject domains and present those in ways that cause highly able students to wonder and grasp and extend their reach. And it envisions schooling as an escalator on which students continually progress rather than a series of stairs with landings on which advanced learners consistently wait. It's not so hard to articulate. It's fiendishly difficult to achieve in schools where standardization is the norm and where teachers are supported in being recipe followers rather than flexible and reflective artisans. In schools where responsive instruction is a carefully supported indicator of professional growth, the capacity to extend even the most capable mind is a benchmark of success. And that's our goal. Next slide, Tim. So to touch on some of our future plans, we need to increase our training about gifted learners among our general education teachers, not just our creative inquiry, our gifted specialists. We'd like to increase our opportunities for evening enrichment events for gifted learners who are identified formally or even self-identified. We'd like to look at perhaps formalizing a curriculum to address the needs of gifted learners in grades K-6, and as I mentioned, those tracks going into middle school. That curriculum could look different. It could be more advanced. It could be more rigorous, and I believe that people should have opportunities and choices to do that. And increase participation in academic-related clubs before and after school. And then one thing that Dr. Jensen's real interesting is evaluating the effectiveness of the practice to administer the COGAT for all second graders. To look at, is this the most effective screening practice to identify the kids, or is there a better way to be able to do that? One bullet point that's not on there that I would mention that I've already said twice is again, we need to be able to articulate our tracks for all students from K-6 to middle school to high school. It should be very predictable and it should be easy on families with the ability for their child to be challenged to gain high school credit and the student to be able to have choice to do whatever they want as opposed to just mandating what they'll be able to learn. Again, those are all challenges, but those are things that we'll be looking at this year. So I'll take any questions that the board may have, and please forgive me if I say I'll have to get back to you on that. So I'm a little bit of a messenger on this as I'm getting to know all these great things.
I sent a lot of questions to the superintendent, as boards can do, but I'll ask a couple of them or
Sure.
raise some other concerns that I thought of. I'm assuming class size is going to be larger this year, potentially. And so my thought is, if the teachers are having to come up with materials of their own, I know it says that the district will provide them, and I hope that's the case, because if they have to come up with their own materials, their workload is already going to be stretched, particularly if class sizes are larger. So, I think about enrichment, and I'm thinking about our math books from a few years back, and there was an enrichment piece of paper we could, at that point in time, copy and give to the kids. That's not enough. And so if, I hope the district is going to do more than that. The other thing is, I don't know if the district is considering the cluster grouping as they once did years ago, and possibly that when we did it, it didn't work well because we didn't have enough. We only had 2 straight third grade teachers, for example. So I think the cluster type would work as long as you had enough classes to split kids. So that's a concern. It's not a question. My concern is really materials for the teachers. If the expectation is that there's going to teach them, we have 12% gifted. I think that's a pretty large population. It can't be ignored. That they need to have the resources.
Yeah, President Hatcher, I think those are good concerns. They're noted. I'm very familiar with the cluster model, so I hear your concern. And I agree, we want to be very careful with what gifted students do not need to be the teacher's helpers. They don't need to be doing extra worksheets. We need meaningful things for them to do. So I think your concerns are very valid and they're noted. I will say, I think I sent the board when you guys had asked questions, we're about 12% gifted. Correct me if I'm wrong, anyone, but I think the last time I read the state average was about 10%. So we are a little above the state average with regards to gifted, meaning about 10% of your student population has kind of the gifted exceptional label. So yeah, we do have our work cut out for us, but it's about, not just giving the students busy work, but making it meaningful, but then not also putting extra stuff on the teacher's plate, right? Really equipping them. So I think those are very valid concerns.
And the other interesting thing about the gifted, I've always thought it was interesting at least, is that I regard it as a form of special education. It's just on another spectrum. But when you hear special ed, that's not typically what you think of. And so gifted doesn't tend to get the focus that the other spectrum gets unless you have pretty vocal parents. Then your attention will snap too. And so I wonder, now on this side, I wonder about accountability to those kids. They don't have IEPs, and they almost need an IEP, in a way. And I know that's not the law, so that's not going to happen. But I just now wonder about accountability.
Yeah, and typically gifted is not funded by the state, just so the board is aware. There's years where they'll fund gifted and you might be happy, and then it turns out to be, I don't know, $5,000 or $10,000. And so gifted's typically supported through M&O or from other ways. But I agree, when we build this program, President Hatcher, there just needs to be structure and accountability to what are the reporting mechanisms for a parent. How does a parent know their child is getting the appropriate education, just getting pulled out, 3 hours a week or what have you? What does that mean? So that's some of the work that we need to do because, we want parents to be able to know, and their child is learning their content at grade level, and then they're being stretched even to further and deeper and more rigorous content. So a lot to do. So we really need a program builder, and this year it's not going to happen overnight, but we'll look at all those structures.
Dr. Monroe, is there a way to incentivize teachers that maybe want to take on, let's say, a teacher per grade that want to take on the gifted children and go through that extra training to then be able to provide that to those students? I think other districts have done it that way in the past. Yeah,
Member Walker, and you're right. In other districts, I've been a part of those. We haven't had those discussions here, but I would be very interested in that. I was part of a project in my past district where we paid for the teachers to be able to get their, the training and the certification. Then it was on their certificate, and then they were just equipped. And that came at a very low dollar, and the teachers really appreciated it. And so we ran a cohort each year where They could kind of get the training, maybe at our school district, and we would bring someone in, and then they would not only have the tools, but then they'd have it on their certificate, and we paid for it. And it really wasn't that expensive of a cost, and it really boosted our teachers' confidence in helping provide instruction to those kids. So that's certainly something we can look into it. And then on the other side, incentivize as far as stipends and other things. Those are always options on the table that we could look at.
And then hearing that makes me think of something else, is that when you have the gifted clusters in a particular classroom, and the other classroom in the same grade level does not, you realize those test scores are going to be quite different. And so, and I know that was an issue in years past, at least in my grade level. So I'm thinking down the road now. Those if we could ever do that, if we could ever afford to do that, the teachers that don't have the gifted kids shouldn't ever be penalized for test scores,
Absolutely. Yeah.
because of that disparity.
President Hatcher, I agree with you 100%. When I was a principal, we followed the cluster model, and in our first year, we fell into some of those practices where one class had the cluster of gifted students, and one class had the cluster of students who had different special needs on the other side of the spectrum. And so that hit us over the head really in that first year. So yeah, I agree. We need to be very sensitive to that, and some teachers gravitate towards different student needs as well. Some teachers really are motivated to work with gifted learners, and some teachers are really motivated to work with students who have special needs. So yeah, I agree. It's not apples to apples, perhaps.
You mentioned that the creative inquiry teacher will travel to the students at the elementary school as opposed to the students traveling to the teacher. Is the same thing going to happen in middle school? Because, there's there's students at the middle school that will be taking algebra at Cactus Shadows. And so they're shuttled in the van up to Cactus Shadows. Is there a thought to bring the teacher down to Sonoran Trails?
Yeah, Member Busby, let me get back to you on that one. That's a good one. You stumped me. I don't know the answer to that. There's probably one, but I'm not sure.
Are we going to be hiring more gifted teachers?
I think we have a posting right now, Caroline, for a gifted teacher. Is that correct?
Because
Yes,
on
it's
our,
not additional staff.
Okay.
because I saw in our HR item that our gifted teacher resigned. So, okay. And one other question. You mentioned looking into middle school kids getting high school credit. Is that like a reality that might happen sooner rather than later?
It probably wouldn't happen for this year. We'd probably have to study that out and bring that to the board, and then probably for the next school year. But I know, I'm trying to think of my own kids. I want to say they went into high school with either 2 or 3 high school credits. I don't remember. It might have been like a Spanish 1 and like an Algebra 1 credit. I don't remember, so I want to be careful. But that can all be controlled by our board and by our graduation requirements. Where it gets a little dangerous is if someone leaves the district. So let's say they go to Sonoran Trails and they take these courses, and then they say, I'm going to go to Pinnacle High School, and they leave the district. We lose a little control on that. So the question would be, would another district honor those high school credits? And so as long as they stay within our system, we can certainly do that, but it probably wouldn't be for this year.
That's
Member
been
Busby.
a real point of contention, because in the past, there have been students at Cactus Shadows who ended up not being the valedictorian or the salutatorian because the credit from classes they took as middle school students, but took them, like algebra, for instance, they didn't get credit for
Yes.
it. And so there have been a lot of parents who called me that.
Yeah, those changes have far-reaching tentacles into lots of things. That's why when you make those decisions, you project out. For example, with a valedictorian, you might say, the valedictorian criteria changes for this group of freshmen or this group of seventh graders moving forward. And so it's almost like a rolling scale because people can get hurt by that decision. And so it's a little bit time bound. So if we did something like that, we would make sure that any valedictorian, salutatorian process wasn't hurt because of that. But we'd have to say starting in starting with this year's seventh graders or starting with this year's eighth graders, we'll do A, B, and C. And so it's not just a simple board change. You really got to look forward a few years, but it's definitely possible. I will say it's from rubbing shoulders with and being in other districts, it's definitely common practice in a lot of districts where there's a lot of choice. Again, at our middle school, we have five core classes, and so there's a lot of opportunities here for us to look at what families can choose to do. So that could realistically, Member Busby, be something that we bring to the board this year to start for the next school year. So it'd be for the current sixth graders, the kids that are becoming sixth graders, potentially.
Okay.
Dr. Monroe, when we set up when the state came out with the new civics test, and we set that up a few years ago, if the eighth grader students took that test and passed, that credit carried over into their high school transcript. So we've got a subject that we're already realizing that if they do pass and they roll in as freshmen, then they don't have to retake that. So we've kind of started the groundwork on that,
Yeah.
maybe.
Yeah, no, Member Brown, that's good to hear. I didn't know that about our civics test. My understanding is each student needs to be able to pass that civics test. It's now a high school graduation requirement. I'll check, but I don't believe it counts as high school credit. However, they have to pass the test. They have to get credit for it in order to graduate. So if they do it in eighth grade, I agreed. My understanding is they don't have to worry about it 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th grade. And I'll make sure I double check my facts so I'm not saying that mistakenly, but it's sort of a different type of credit. It's not one of the 20, 30 credits the kids have to accrue, but they do have to have it to graduate from high school. So, and if they can take it in eighth grade, it's one less thing they have to worry about in their high school career.
Thank you. I'll have a couple more questions for you with 5.25 that was moved out. Okay, about the rubric specifically. All right, moving on to item 5, action consent. Is there a motion to approve item 5, action consent, as presented?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve item 5, action consent, as presented. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain. The motion carries. Item 5 is approved as presented. Item 6. Old business. 6.1, approval of the revised 2021. Oh, I'm sorry.
What happened to
5.25. Whoops. Okay, so then I guess I need a motion to talk about, because you're going to want us to approve that. So can you make a recommendation, Dr. Monroe, that we approve that rubric for 5.25? And then I'll make a motion.
Yes, and you know what I'm realizing now? I think there was there may have been some formatting and stuff that we had corrected. I don't know if I updated the new version of this. So, but I'll still make the recommendation because I think that there was some feedback as the board was reviewing the book, and I think we corrected it. But now that I realize, I don't know if I put it on the board agenda.
Because I pulled it, if you want us to approve it, we would need a recommendation from you to approve item 5.25.
Do we need to table it?
Do you want us to table it? Would that
Well,
be better?
what are the? Well, I would recommend that we approve. I would recommend that the board approve it because I'd like to get it into the Arizona Department of Education. However, if you guys have other things besides, if there were other corrections or things I missed besides what you guys offered, that really impacted the content of it, we could look at those. But I'd really like to try to get it in if possible.
So make the recommendation, and then I'll move it because I want to discuss it and see if we get a second. And I just want to bring up two things.
Okay.
That you did address, but I want it.
Sure.
And then we can vote, yeah.
As part of the Cycle 5 monitoring instrument for ESEA, the current gifted scope and sequence must be board approved and submitted to the Arizona Department of Education. Administration would recommend that the governing board take the following action. Move that the governing board approve the gifted scope and sequence as presented.
So moved.
Second. So questions and discussion. So yeah, my question was, there is a sentence left off, and in your writing to us, you said that would be complete. And then I also noticed that I had questioned the effective comment. I don't have that up in front of me. It's like the 7th bullet point under social emotional development. Okay, I'm sorry. I see my notes now. It's the first 2 bullet points, and what I said to you was that they mentioned the effective needs, and my comment to you was simply putting them in grouping with children of like cognitive ability or similar cognitive ability doesn't necessarily address effective needs. And then I think it was bullet point number 7 where they talk about I'm going to use the word remedy. I don't think that's what they use, but anyway, remedy would be they could go to a counselor. Because when you talk about effective needs, I mean, I understand where they're going on that rubric, but that doesn't necessarily address the effective needs of gifted kids just by sticking them with like kids. So those are my only 2 points, and you know, I had said that to you in notes to the superintendent.
Yeah, and I apologize. I think, again, I think it's done. I just don't think that I updated the board book, so I apologize.
Okay.
I think that we had addressed that.
Then I'd like to make a motion to table this until it's updated so that we can approve it appropriately.
So that would be in 2 weeks, right?
Yeah,
And
well-
that's not going to affect the state
I
at
think
all?
we'll be okay, and I want to make sure it's done the right way, so I think that'll be fine.
All right, okay. So motion is tabled.
Second?
Yeah, all in favor say aye to
Was there a
Heard the-
second?
I second it.
Okay, then.
Aye.
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 aye. So the item 5.25 is tabled. Thank you. All right,
And President Hatcher, one thing I wanted to jump in here, and again, I apologize. Maybe the heat is getting to me or running back and forth to Tucson, so that's not my normal operating. But we'll make sure we get the right one back to you here in 2 weeks. But with the approval of item 5, I'd like to read a little bit about 2 new leaders that we're very excited to have in our district. First, I'd like to tell the board about Nicole Johnson. Nicole is one of our brand new assistant principals at Cactus Shadows High School. She is not here because they've had a family reunion planned a long time ago, and she felt very guilty, but I said, our board will be very understanding, so you go and be with your family. But she's very excited to start. She's got 11 years of educational experience, and this is what's written. Nicole thrives on learning new things, building connections with staff, students, and families. Continuous learning, daily excellence, and the opportunity to impact students are the primary reason she left her career in the private sector to pursue a career in education. Throughout the years, she's had the pleasure of teaching in a variety of grade levels. She's been an assistant principal at the elementary, junior high, and high school levels. She brings a wealth of experience from her business and finance career and the educational community that she has come to know and love. On a personal note, she's an Arizona native. She grew up in the West Valley. She received her bachelor's in global management and leadership, a master's of education, and a master's of educational leadership. She's proud to be an alumni from ASU, GCU, and NAU. She and her husband have been together for 18 years and absolutely adore their fur babies. In their spare time, they enjoy spending time with family, exploring the outdoors, and traveling. Every chance she gets, you'll find her riding horses, walking the dogs, and digging for her next thrift store treasure. And then I'd also like to introduce Marcy Rodriguez. Marcy, you want to come up to the podium? Very excited to have Marcy start with us. She has over 20 years of experience in Arizona school finance and operations. Marcy started her career at ADE. She was the director of school finance. Along her professional journey, she has been a collaborative leader of an elementary, a unified, and a union high school district. She's led steering committees, which have successfully passed bonds, maintenance on operation overrides, and capital override elections. Marcy is passionate about creating innovative environments where students are engaged and challenged to be independent thinkers. She holds a Bachelor's of Science in Business Information Systems and an MBA from Ottawa University. She serves on the board of a nonprofit educational foundation that awards over 20 scholarships a year towards post-secondary education. Marcy is the daughter of a math teacher, basketball coach, and a special education teacher. She is married and has 3 grown sons, and she has 5 precious grandchildren. Her favorite pastime is to go up to Heber, Arizona, where they have a cabin. She loves to fish and explore with her husband and grandchildren. Marcy.
Thank you, Madam President, Dr. Monroe, members of the board. I am so thrilled that you are honoring me with the CFO of this district. I know I've got some really big shoes to fill. I've met the team. They're amazing. And I know that we will continue to do good things for the community here. Thank you.
Welcome.
Well, yes.
Marcy will start unofficially on Monday. As the board is aware, we kind of have a 2-week transition plan. She is coming from Agua Fria, but on Monday she'll start to spend kind of a 2-week transitional period with Mr. Leedy, so nothing is lost in the shuffle and nothing falls through the cracks. And so we're very excited unofficially for her to start on Monday and then officially on July 1st. So we're excited to work with you, Marcy.
Thank you. Item 6, old business. 6.1, approval of the revised 2021-2022 classified support staff salary range, presented by Mr. Tim Leedy.
Thank you, President Hatcher, members of the board, Dr. Monroe. Administration is presenting for approval of the following revised salary schedule and range for the 2021-2022 school year. The 2021-2022 classified support salary staff range, which with the sophistication of, and this is supposed to read edgenuity instead of ingenuity, but the edgenuity software systems, the required knowledge and skill set of the e-learning lab assistant is highly specialized, combined with the knowledge of computer software used for our school suspension program to prevent future behavioral issues. Therefore, the recommendation is to have the pay grade at a level 18 for the e-learning lab assistants. Therefore, the administration recommend that the governing board approve the following revised classified support salary range for the 2021-2022 school year as presented.
So moved.
Second.
Are there questions
I
from
just have
Mr.
one
Leedy?
question. Is the job description for this position changing?
President Hatcher, Member Busby, not to my knowledge, no.
Okay,
It's just the skill set that's needed for the job.
okay.
Do you want to confirm that, Caroline? Is the job description changing, or is it just?
The title changed.
But
The
not-
title changed, but the requirements for the job haven't. Okay.
Mr. Leedy, do we have a employee in this position right now? Or is this an open position?
President Hatcher, Member Brown, I would have to defer to,
Okay.
Yeah.
Good.
thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Okay, hearing none, it's been moved and seconded to approve item 6.1, approval of the revised 2021-2022 classified support staff salary range as presented. All in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Abstain? The motion carries. Item 6.1 is approved as presented. Item 7.1, new business. Proposed budget for 2021-2022, presented by Mr. Tim Leedy.
Thank you, President Hatcher, members of the board, Dr. Monroe. The purpose of this agenda item is to present for approval the proposed 2021-2022 budget. The Auditor General's Office advised the district to propose and adopt the budget based on current year values, since the legislature has not yet approved the state budget. Excuse me. The proposed estimated budget based on current values is $32,726,606. The projected budget with anticipated legislative change is $33,280,514, or an increase of approximately $553,000. The district will revise the budget in September or December and/or May. They will revise it in May for the final 2022 budget to incorporate legislative changes and capture the additional budget capacity. There is an increase to the classroom site fund of $308 for next year, which includes a one-time increase of $192 due to accumulated cash balances in the classroom site fund and continued funding from Prop 123. For the first time in over 10 years, the budget includes the full funding for district additional assistance, which is our capital outlay budget. And ARS 15905A requires district to submit a proposed budget no later than July 5th to the Superintendent of Public Instruction and Maricopa County School Superintendent. The adopted budget that we will bring before the board on June the 28th will be the same as the proposed budget that you have before you tonight. And as a footnote, I wanted to add, that this budget is kind of unique in budgeting history for me because of adopting it or proposing and adopted on the prior year figures because of the legislative session still being in session. They haven't closed. So this budget is basically a placeholder for dotting the I's and crossing the T's for the law, and then once the district gets the actual figures, then we will insert those, and Ms. Rodriguez will bring those back for your review and a subsequent approval. So administration would recommend that the governing board take the following action and move that the governing board approve the proposed budget for 2021-2022 as presented.
So moved.
Second.
Are there questions?
Just had a quick question, Mr. Leedy. Under normal circumstances, could you go through what the process of getting this proposed budget together, what the process is?
Certainly. President Hatcher, Member Fortney, this year the budget preparation began in December with preliminary estimates of the FY 2022 budget based on student counts at that time. And I think from the reports that I had given to you in December, we had given some preliminary estimates. Fortunately, those estimates were a little bit low based on the student count at the time. But at the December 14th meeting, we put out that the estimated budget for 2022 was going to be roughly $32.4 million. And the original FY 2021 budget was $36,539,490, leaving a budget shortfall for 22 of approximately $4.1 million. Through many meetings with directors and executive leadership team, administration developed a list of budget-saving strategies to mitigate the shortfall. These strategies included administrative reorganization, reduction in force due to student decline, consolidation of positions, and facilities and transportation operational changes. Because of the timing of issuing contracts, these changes were implemented very quickly because contracts for fiscal year 2022 were issued on March 15th. The district held interest-based negotiations with representatives from certified, classified, and administrative staff beginning in September of 2020 through March 2nd of 2021 to discuss salaries, benefits, and working conditions. And it was through this process that parties were able to negotiate a change in benefits, allowing the district to grant a 1.7% raise for all staff for fiscal year 2022. This is an integral part of the budgeting process because it allows for discussion of the condition of the budget with representatives from each employee group. Approximately 80% of the district's operating budget year over year is in personnel and benefits. The remaining 20% is a combination of purchase services and supplies, including utilities costs and classroom supplies. Because the legislature has not completed the 2021 session, the Auditor General's office sent preliminary budget forms and instructed districts to propose their 2022 budget based on current year values. Once the legislature completes its session, the district will revise the budget in September or December to reflect actual numbers. Depending on actual student counts at the beginning of the year, estimates indicate the district will receive approximately $500,000 more in budget capacity due to legislative changes. One thing I wanted to add to that point too is I read an article yesterday that nationwide they are talking about a bumper crop of kindergartners hopefully coming in. So hopefully we'll see quite a few new faces come this fall. And the ESSER 2, the good news on the ESSER 3 grant is that original estimates we had at about 2.5 million, and because of an additional $570 that came from the state to equalize funding for non-Title I districts, we're going to actually get 4.4 million in that, and we're in the process of basically lining out how we're going to apply for the grant, and probably sometime in July we'll formalize the plan for that, get it to the board, and then we'll apply, because we have until August to apply. I think it's like August 23rd or 25th to apply for the ESSER 3 grant, and then once we get that in and approved, we have until September of 2024 to spend the funds. And so what we can do with those funds is that will help us get down the road and cover the gaps that we'll have for the effects of COVID. And then we can revise based on our spending needs once we get down the road. So that's basically the process. I hope that answered your question.
It did, thank you.
Sure.
Any other questions? Okay, hearing none. It's been moved and seconded to approve item 7.1, proposed budget for 2021-2022 as presented. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? The motion carries. Item 7.1 is approved as presented. Item 7.2, renewal of lease with Apogee Education LLC, Bella Vista Private School, presented by Mr. Tim Leedy.
Thank you, President Hatcher, members of the board, Dr. Monroe. Bella Vista's lease for the use of space at Desert Arroyo expires on June 30th, 2021. They've requested a lease renewal, and the lease renewal will be for 2 years and will have the same terms as the lease agreement dated July 1, 2013. The proposed lease agreement will now expire in June 2023, and this is not unlike the pattern in the past. I think we had the first lease was for 2 years, the second lease was for 2 years, then we had 2 leases of 1 year and then 2 years, and this proposed lease is for 2 years for the lease extension. And the amendment to the lease agreement has been approved by our attorney. And the intent of this 2-year lease is to give us a chance to review the program and develop a more long-term strategy for Bella Vista, and then potentially bring back a longer-term lease so that we can lease more of the space in 2023. So with that, the administration would recommend the governing board approve the amendment to the lease agreement with Apogee Education LLC as presented.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Are there any questions for Mr. Leedy?
Is there a reason why the financial terms of the contract or the lease haven't changed since 2013?
President Hatcher, Member Busby, I'm not certain why they haven't changed from the 2013 lease. Mr. Brown is here. Maybe he would know why the tenants of the lease haven't changed since that
Well,
that
no,
point in
what
time.
I'm saying is how much we're charging them.
The financial part of it?
The financial part, why hasn't that changed since 2013?
I'm assuming that it was because it was written into the original lease, and then on the lease renewals that we just charge the same amount per square foot. Now, if they do use more square footage as in terms of the gym or more time, there will be a corresponding increase in their rental, but maybe not the rental rate. We can renegotiate that at any time.
Mr. Leedy, what is the rental rate? Because it's not in the attachment in the board book.
I will have to get back to you on that because I'm not certain, because I don't think I have that in my book as well. Let me look here.
And then does this rent, I don't see, in the board book information, I know there was some discussion with utilities. If utilities was a separate charge, obviously the way the facility is, there's no separate meters on the utilities over there, so I don't know what, are we under what would be considered a fair and equitable number for utilities?
Are we prepared? Do we have a number on
I
utilities?
don't have a number with me. I can put that in my report for this week and get you the information at the end of the week. I can research that tomorrow.
And we can and again, we have a board meeting in 2 weeks, and we can always come back with some of those answers if President Hatcher, members of the board, if we need to do that to be able to answer some of these questions better, we can always do that.
I'd like to amend the motion that we table this until the next board meeting.
I'll second that.
Okay, all those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Abstain. The motion has been approved to table, so 7.2 is tabled.
Member Hatcher, members of the board, are there other questions that we can make sure we come back and we're prepared with and have at our fingertips? Member Busby, Member Brown, other than the ones you guys have asked so far?
No, I'm just interested in what we were charging for rent, square footage, and then for the utilities in 2013 and what it is now. Because if it hasn't changed, it is a smoky deal, especially with what real estate costs
Yeah,
now per
understood.
square foot.
Understood.
So then, in the 2 weeks, if we have any other questions pertaining to that lease, can we shoot them to you?
Yes.
And you bring them back for that presentation?
Yeah, please
Okay,
do.
in addition to these two?
Yeah, if there's things that we're missing or you guys think of, let us know, and we'll make sure the research gets done. We can talk to Mike Santina as well.
All right,
Thank you.
thank you. Item 7.3, renewal of lease with Bella Fidel, presented by Mr. Tim Leedy.
Thank you, President Hatcher, members of the board, Dr. Monroe. Bella Fidel's lease for the use of space at Desert Arroyo expires on June 30th, 2021. She has requested a lease renewal, and this is for the art studio that is in the Desert Arroyo. The lease renewal will be for 2 years and will have the same terms and the same lease dated December 20th, 2018. The attachment represents the terms of the proposed lease agreement amendment, which will now expire on June 30th, 2023. The amendment to the lease agreement has been approved by our attorney. Therefore, the administration would recommend that the governing board approve the amendment to the lease with Bella Fidel as presented.
So moved.
Second?
Okay, questions?
Well, I have the same question for this one. What were we charging in 2018?
Might I recommend that we actually, the board consider tabling this as well, so that we can bring back, Mr. Leedy, we can do the research and make sure we bring back the same answers to the questions that you guys have with the previous board item?
Sure.
Well, then I will make a motion that we amend this, or to table it until the next meeting.
I'll second that.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to table item 7.3, renewal of the lease with Bella Fidel. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion carries. Item 7.3 is tabled. And that's the same situation, right, Dr. Monroe, that if we think of other questions, we can have them answered and presented in the next meeting.
Correct.
All right, thank you. Yeah. So the next thing we're going to do might take a little bit of time, so let's take about a 5-minute break. 5-minute break.
It's 115 outside. I'm in a suit.
Yeah, it's a little warm. Thank you so much.
So I just kind of follow him. That's pretty sweet. Got a great team over there.
You've done a great job.
Oh, thank you so much. You know, I'm here for any questions and suggestions, and, you know, so. I was actually, I live of 2017. Oh, do you? Yes. No, I was driving a ways back, so this is a nice drive. I like hearing from people. Oh my, he must really love his job. It's a love-hate relationship.
Parts of the real difference. Real parts.
Yeah, he's not driving on 101, 910 every day.
So I grew up in
It's kind of scary sometimes. So well done. Thank you so much.
Now she's studying for hard last week in July.
And you can do it from that.
Yes. Yeah, her group that started 3 years ago, 6 of the 8 all stayed together. We all going to take the own tomorrow.
Wish we could scroll that. Yeah, that's what I did. Mine's all the way down. Exactly.
But the thing that I found is they use this for other stuff. And there have been times where I've adjusted. Okay, so it's where the monitor, and I come in and I'm like sitting here, the monitor's way up here.
So, but no, it was a nice trip. We found out like 10 days before the parents.
Well, congratulations, that is a very big deal. I bet you're very proud. Yeah, Maryland's a special place. I don't either. I don't either.
Let's see who's going to run that. Is Mark running it, or is Tim? So we can see the.
Tim is. Did he go into the restroom?
I don't know.
I do. He may have. Somebody went in the restroom.
Tim probably did. Yeah, he'll put comments up.
Next time I'll have to make sure I don't do a PDF. I wasn't even thinking that when I sent my comments, it was on a PDF
Oh,
form.
yeah, that's why I asked you about the
Yeah.
formatting. It's okay.
I'm
We
just so used
We were
to.
just looking at it and I
I'm
said,
just-
I'm gonna see her, I'll ask her just to make sure it was a formatting thing. She intentionally wanted it.
I just, I'm so used to making everything into a PDF.
We're just waiting for Tim. I think he went into the restroom.
He left. Oh, I know. Okay, we ready? Mr. Leedy, can you back it back up so I can read the 4.2?
Sure.
Thank you. All right. Item 4.2. Evaluation of school board, board self-evaluation, policy exhibit BAA-E, presented by me, Beth Hatcher. All governing board members were emailed policy BAA and policy exhibit BAA-E on May 27, 2021. Governing board members were asked to complete BAA-E with their comments and return to Lori Hay no later than June 7, 2021 for compilation on one document. Board will be able to discuss this compilation in public and provide a self-evaluation of its function and performance. All right, Mr. Leedy, can you scroll that up, please? And there's no action, it's just discussion. Okay, so board, we know how many bullet points there are on this thing. Do we just want to sort of look at the category and respond, then look at our comments to the category? Or do you want to, I'm sure you don't want to read bullet point by bullet point. So I would suggest looking at the category and then respond as you would like, if that's okay with the board.
Sounds good.
Is that all right? Okay. So A is board relationship with the superintendent. Can you?
Want us to make comments?
Yeah, can you go up a little bit? So, yeah, you can see our comments, obviously, and does anyone want to respond verbally?
Just let's say that in the time that we've been together, since it's new superintendent and a new board member, I've appreciated the workings of this relationship and how this is going. There's been good communication. Everything that we seem to have brought to how things should be running is running the way that we expect it to be as far as the delegation process. So the access that we're having to the superintendent has been excellent. I can't think of a time when I've said I need to talk either in person or on the phone and haven't been able to get that. So I think it's working very well. I'm really pleased with how things have gone so far.
I would concur with that. Stepping into a school district in the middle of the school year, and especially in the middle of a pandemic school year, it's asking a lot of anybody, and I think collectively we've been very fortunate. We've got a good team on the board, and we've got a good superintendent, and collectively I think we've worked well, and the communication, I think, on all sides has been really good. So, yay for all of us.
I'd have to say I'm excited now that we've knocked the newness off of Dr. Monroe. The board's rocking and rolling now that we've been together, almost 6 months. That we're all but through the COVID. So now I'm really anticipating what we can do. It's time to turn the tigers loose and see what we can do for our students and our staff. So I'm appreciative because I think everybody up here on the dais and all the employees, obviously teachers and staff, realize what the district had to go through to get to this point with all the COVID limitations and obviously reworking the district and falling within the budget required by the state. So it's, I think now we can really see what our new leadership team can do, and I'm excited for that because I think it will really benefit our students.
Member Walker, do you have anything you'd like to say?
Yeah, I agree. It's been nice being a new board member to be able to reach out and either have an appointment in person or just the accessibility for you to pick up the phone when I have a question. So, and then also just questions to the superintendent. I've been impressed by the timeliness to your responses, and all my questions are answered. So.
I agree too. Dr. Monroe has stepped into obviously COVID, as all superintendents have been dealing with, but getting to know a new district and all that, and he has been very gracious. You know, I can't speak for all of us because we don't know, but just hearing it, then I can hear that they feel the same way I do. Open door policy and always willing to listen, so I appreciate that. And then up above where, can you scroll up just a little bit, Mr. Leedy? Sure. Another part of that, that red is mine, at least I think it is. Forwarding, it's been a while since I filled that out, but I'm pretty sure it is. Forwarding the stakeholder comments to the superintendent, you know, and letting him handle that instead of us handling it. And we probably all experienced that sometimes that's hard because we know the teachers, we know the parents, and our natural instinct, or at least I'll speak for myself, your natural instinct is to problem solve. So to send it up the chain of command, you know, is what we do. So thank you. And thank you, Dr. Monroe, for being so open door with us. Anything else before we go to B? All right. Okay, Mr. Leedy, B, please. Thank you. Oh, we gave ourselves a 3. Yeah. Board relationship with the community, all right, so that segues into that. I'm just getting that too. Are we ready to scroll up, everybody?
Yeah, you know, the only thing that I would like to add to this is it's been an interesting school year, to say the least. And there's been good and bad comments made, and, you know, you can ask 50 people and you're going to get probably 49 different responses. But one of the things that I always like to do is, regardless of what the situation is, there's always something good to be gleaned from the situation, whether it was somebody who agreed with you or not. And, you know, this was a very emotional year for teachers and parents in the community. But within all of that, one of the things that stands out is that there's a lot of passion for our school district. And we would be remiss if we didn't really capitalize on that, because it's that kind of passion that creates really great things, or greater than where we are. And so it's, you know, wherever you stand politically is where you stand politically. I don't really care. But what I'm concerned with is, how do we make this the best environment for our teachers and our students? And we've seen the passion that is out there. And so now we've got to figure out how to rein it all in and use it to our advantage.
Yeah, that red is mine. I think that it has been an extremely difficult year, and I think our district has done a really, really good job. You know, the board has taken shots, Dr. Monroe has taken shots, and but I believe that this board has, and the district and the administration, concerning the community, I believe that we've done the best we could do with what we were given. And I realize that the community didn't always understand that, but we were working under some real constraints that were out of our hands. And so, you know, I thank the board. I think the board did a good job.
It was an interesting start to the school year.
And to that point, you know, before I was on the board, I was out there watching these meetings on the internet and listening to the stuff that you guys had to go through when you were making these really tough decisions. And I was kind of like, boy, I'm glad they're making those. And then now it's this time, and so we're in this, but we see that there's a lot of things that are going on, and you do hear this stuff from the community, and again, they are very passionate, and so, and you can't, there's no way that you can please everybody, so everything has been so divided that you have to listen. We will continue to keep listening. I hope that there will be more opportunities to get some of these people involved in some of the things that we're doing going forward. As Member Brown said, it seems like so far we've just kind of been in that reactive mode of what we have to do for COVID and what we have to do for the budget. Now maybe we can start really moving it forward on what we want to do for the district. So I think that will involve some community involvement, and that will really be a good thing for us too.
As you said that, a thought came to mind. It would be, I don't know if this is feasible to do it, but to have maybe twice a year, one in each semester, some kind of like a community town hall where it's not necessarily a set agenda, but we invite the community to come in and, this is what we're planning for this semester, or this is what our plan is, or something to give our stakeholders an opportunity in a pretty informal setting to be heard. Yeah. Because, if they come to a meeting here, they can tell us we're great or they can tell us we're horrible people, but we sit here and we say nothing. And my heart goes out to anybody that comes and makes a comment, because they're coming to comment because they're passionate about something. But we sit here and we say nothing. And you kind of leave unfulfilled. And not that we're trying to be everything to everyone, but I think there's some middle ground there that we can kind of maybe be innovative and figure out how to reach out to our community, to have open conversation, to, help us be better, but to better understand where they're coming from as well.
I'm sure with the COVID, everything obviously had been canceled and postponed. I know I don't know how far back this would have gone. Paradise Valley School District used to do a morning event called Bagels with the Board, and it was an hour, and they'd either do it at a school or they'd do it not in the governing room. And I don't know the mechanics of that. I just know that was an opportunity that public could come, and you had an hour to mingle. And, if somebody just wanted to talk off the record casually as a parent to a board member, that was an opportunity that they had. And I know obviously there's issues with open meeting law and everything that we would have to do in that kind of a setting, but I know that district did something. So like I said, I don't know the mechanics of it, but I'm sure we could find out how they manage that. I also know Dr. Burdick used to do her superintendent's coffee at the elementary schools. She picked a school a month and would make herself available to do that. And maybe that's something that we could use to grow this, chance for parents to reach out and at least talk to a board member and or with the superintendent. Maybe we just do that too.
Yeah, Member Brown and members of the board, that's something we're going to be instituting as we go back as we lessen the restrictions. I'll be doing those interactions, whether it's called coffee with Dr. Monroe or what have you, and that's definitely something we can look at, whether a board member or two want to attend that with me or take turns, even just to be out there and interact with the community in a very informal way that doesn't break the open meeting law or do anything that way. So that's certainly a possibility. I'm planning on doing that monthly to, being part of those in the past, not as a superintendent. Sometimes you have 0 people come, sometimes 5, sometimes 20. But the important thing is making that effort. We could certainly do a rotation with the board members if they wanted, where, a board member came with me 1 month or 2 board members. We could certainly look at something like that. That would be pretty easy to pull off.
Cookies with court.
Yeah, cookies with court, yeah. Something breakfast, yeah, or coffee with court. But yeah, and that's just informal. There's nothing official happening. We're not in violation of open meeting law, and then you're out. The board's out interacting with the community as opposed to being stopped at the store or what have you, or stopped on the soccer field. Or
Yeah. I think the important thing is that it's presented in a way that we want to hear from you because that's what it's all about. It's not just coming and meeting and greeting and saying, hey, we're swell people. There's a purpose to it, and this is, we want to hear from you, so you come and you tell us, or you tell Dr. Monroe or whoever, but a lot of it is in how we put it out there.
Yeah, because we really can't respond. I found that when I meet with people one-on-one, I have to tell them that, number one, I am not the board by myself. I'm only the board with 4 other people. And 2, I can't offer you solutions, And typically, the folks that come to me, they want problems solved. And that's, again, where I say, well, go up your chain of command. So I agree with what Janet just said, that, the listening and what y'all have said, listening to them, just hearing them.
It's huge because, as I said, when they come here, we sit here and we say nothing. Just put ourselves in a position where we can say something. I hear you. I appreciate your comment. Something, because these people come and they say, we say nothing, and, they don't know if we're engaged in what they're saying or if we're thinking about, the grocery list for next week or what it is. And just, for our own, I don't want to say reputation, but to extend that olive branch, we want to hear from you. We are listening, and this is an environment where we can have a dialogue about something.
Right, and I think that bridges the community kind of gap that was lacking, whether it was COVID this year and a new superintendent. I think it's important that they feel heard and also responded to, like you said, even if it's, oh, I hear you.
There have been so many times where I've sat here and I'm just like, I appreciate when people come and say something, but I know that the ones that are very emotional, they want a response, and I sit here and I think, why are you here? Because you're not going to get what you want, and it's so unfair.
Yeah.
That's a surprise. When you're sitting out on that side of it and you're watching this, you kind of go, what?
Why aren't you saying
Why aren't they
something?
saying
Yeah.
to it? And then you get here and you say, you can't. So yeah, I think that anything that we can do going forward that can enhance this communication, needless to say, we won't be able to do everything that everybody wants us to do, but at least they will come away with it saying, well, we were able to talk to them, and we got heard.
Yeah, at some
That will
point down the road, there's going to be a need to create a new strategic plan. And it's having those kinds of interactions that help you identify what you might want to be looking at for a strategic plan going forward. As you're saying, Jeff, you're not going to tackle everything, but those conversations create ideas. And it gets you thinking on, if this is an issue to you, what do we do? What does that lead to in the big picture? And so there's a lot of good things to come out of it. It's now just, how do we do it?
Well, to tie into that too, we've got 3 new principals at our schools and a whole new set of people new to the district. So, I think just to get that FaceTime out in the public, I don't think is a bad idea. We'll definitely, any and all comments from those meetings would be beneficial, just even if it's a small comment, something school specific. I mean, anything to just get feedback to the new group, I think would be important too.
we have a lot to gain and little to lose.
There's a comment that was made under this point, and I don't want to sound critical, but I just want to mention under Dr. Burdick, all emails from parents, everything that we would receive as board members, we would forward to her, and she replied as the board. That's how it was set up. I don't want to know who made the comment, but I just want to remind whoever or all of us, if you reply back on your own, that you're walking a tightrope there, and I don't want anybody to get in trouble with that. I know we've had since I've been on the board, we've had a couple of emotional topics come through, and yes, you'd like to reply back, but you just have to forward them to the superintendent and just don't get caught up in that, because even if you not word something correctly, it could come back to haunt us. And whether it's curriculum or staffing or any policy. So, you just have to be, yes, I would love to reply to all of them, and I appreciate all the emails that we get on all the subjects, but you just have to be very careful.
Yeah, and that's a good point, and that's another thing the public may not really understand, too. I think, Dr. Monroe and Dr. Burdick would say, I respond for the board. But until that happens, I don't think the public realizes that, it's just what Member Brown just said. We run a risk by responding to them, and so they may sit back there just like they do in here when we don't respond, saying, well, they're really unresponsive. And we're really reading them all. But, you have to watch out for those open meeting laws, and you respond, again, we're only the board here. And so, yes, it's a bit tricky.
But, having our little community powwows, it's an opportunity to educate our community on what we can and cannot do. And we're really not just a bunch of stone-faced people sitting here ignoring you. We can't.
Yep, exactly.
Unless, of course, they call one of us out by name, then we can say something if we so choose.
Yeah. All right, we ready to go on to C? All righty. Board relationships during meetings. Okay. And those are our parameters, so our responses. Yeah, the ones in red are mine. I wonder why I'm colored like that. Maybe I've been
I don't know, I'm
naughty.
still back up on this other one where we've got a 1. And we
Oh.
need improvement.
Oh, yeah.
I'm a little puzzled, listening to our comments here, and then I'm looking at this, like, obviously I've missed something. So, anyway,
I think I gave us 3s on everything, probably.
I did. I give us 3s. I don't want to give up excellent, because then that says we don't need to improve, and there's always room for improvement.
Yeah, I thought these were good comments from the board, too. And I was surprised that we had a 2.
Well, looking at it objectively, how everybody reads a score differently.
Yeah.
And, and I think about, like, for our scholarship things at Kiwanis, there's 7 people that are reading the applications, and everybody gets a rubric. But how you define the score on the rubric varies. And, I could have one score, but then, one of the other women that's on this committee, she could read the same application, have a totally different score. And it's like, well, what do you mean? But it's this. And so it's, we don't know where everybody's head's been, but that's okay. Somebody thinks we need improvement on the other one, and we're only good for our board performance, so.
And if whoever, if you care to, if you gave us a 2 and a 1, it would be nice to hear why you thought that, because that would be helpful to us. So, don't be embarrassed to do that.
Well, I gave us the one on the community thing, just because I think there's a lot of ways that we can improve. I don't think we've done a bad job, but just given some of the stuff that we've had to deal with, and the response that we got, I think that if maybe how much better could some of the things that we've had to cut been handled better? There was a lot of complaints about not community involvement beforehand. That was, as Mr. Leedy said, a lot of timing issue, but maybe there were ways that we could have made that better. And going forward, I think there's definitely ways that we can make that better. So that's why I gave that a 1. But overall, as a 3, I'm good. I think these ones that are highlighted, that's mine. But this is the overall one. This, right? The one down here. So I thought, I thought good is good.
Well, see, that's good. Everybody's definition and interpretation is
So
different.
I don't want good to be looked at as bad. I got to tell you that this has been an amazing journey just for the 6 months that we've been here. And you have no idea what to expect when you come back and you start sitting back here and you start looking at this, but knowing that you can't really talk to these guys. And I kind of thought when I was sitting out there, well, they must have something that they're doing together beforehand, because you got to have, right? And you don't. It all manifests itself here. And so I take this time to thank all of you, the previous board members, for how you've presented yourselves and how you've accepted us and how we have worked on this relationship. I think things are going real good. I think we're going to continue to do really good things. And again, I will go back to what Member Brown said. A lot of the stuff that we've been dealing with so far this year has just been, for lack of a better word, kind of rotten. We've had to deal with the COVID, we've had to deal with the budget, we've had to deal with cutting things, and we've had to hear about all that stuff. So there's, it's been more of a, I wouldn't say unpleasant experience, but it's been a little rough and not exactly what you anticipate. So now going forward, I anticipate much better, and I think that this is going to be, I'm impressed with the positions that have been filled. And who they've been filled with, and how the restructuring is done, and how we've done this on the board together. I'm real pleased with how things are going. So, thank you.
And one thing I would add to having been worked with other board self-evaluations is, we get hung up on the number or the score, but really the power is in the conversation, right? The power is just in the reflection. So my advice would be I wouldn't get too hung up on your interpretation
And I'm not. I just
too.
thought
But
it was funny. It's like, wow.
well, it is. But I mean, the power is in the conversation. And again, just like anything else in life, until you're in that seat, you don't quite really experience it, right? Until you're in someone else's shoes. And I'm really proud of our board. I'm really proud to work with I feel like we have a good superintendent board team. All the comments I could say amen to. I mean, I agree with them. We certainly have things to improve in, but each one of you is very different, and you see education in a different lens, and the community doesn't understand that you're only a board when you're in here as a quorum. And I respect each one of you for serving and doing what's right for our district and for kids. And I am excited to get the horses going, Member Brown. So it's to get everybody on the bus, and I think there's good days ahead. But yeah, I think the power is in this conversation, right? It's in the reflection of kind of what you're talking about.
I think too with this, it's kind of for the whole year, and we've had new superintendent and new board members come in halfway. So I think the comments kind of reflect the difference of first semester versus second semester. Just so many changes. Jeff and I didn't have as much COVID decisions to really make, but we had the budget cut decisions. So, anyway, so.
Well, I will say for the two of you, I remember what it was like to come to the first board meeting sitting on this side, and it's like a deer in the headlights. You have a perception when you sit out there, and then when you sit here, it's like, oh no, man, ooh. And it could be the same kind of information, but all of the sudden, it's it brings a total different twist to it, because now you have a different kind of responsibility. And you sit there and it's like, oh, wow, if I say something, am I going to sound stupid? What do I do? And I appreciate the comments that you guys have brought up, you know, like at any of our meetings, because there is a learning curve, and it's not a little one. It's huge, and you guys have embraced it. And this baptism by fire we had this year has been really kind of,
Literally.
yeah, it has been. And so, you know, if you weathered this, well, then you're good to go.
Yeah.
Well, at least you got to experience, which is probably one of the best events, is the graduation and the 8th grade promotions, because it's like that first graduation I was able to attend as a board member. I think it took 3 days to get the smile off my face, because it's just, you see these great students coming across the stage, and maybe we've had an interaction with them at a board meeting, or maybe they're an athlete or an academic or whatever, and you've got to meet them in some capacity, and you feel so proud of them knowing that, hey, congratulations, you made it, and, you know, the world's out there, go get it. So the graduation promotions were always, that's definitely the cherry on top of the sundae.
I agree.
Funny story about graduation. One year, I gave the diploma thing to the kid that was the quarterback for the football team. And this kid was always Mr. Composed and whatever. That kid had the sweatiest hand out of everybody in that entire class. And, you know, I shake his hand and I'm like, you gotta be kidding me, you're the quarterback. And I'm like, ooh. I just thought that was kind of funny. It's like, wow, you know, if your hand's sweaty when you're playing football. Okay.
Okay, good. Thank you all. D, board relationships with staff and personnel. There I am again in the red.
It's been, you know what, it made it kind of hard across the board, because, you know, like you, Beth, and Scott and I, you know, we've been on the board, so we've had the opportunity to interact previously on a lot of the campuses, but for Jeff and Brianna, you know, it's kind of, it's been sort of difficult to really, I mean, you know, Brianna, you've got kids at
Black
Black
Mountain.
Mountain.
Yeah,
So you know staff at Black Mountain, and you've previously been a teacher, so you know you're acquainted with some, but it still sort of limits your ability to really access a campus and really appreciate it for what it has to offer, because we had COVID, and COVID didn't agree.
Well, and with COVID restrictions, you know, with those being lifted quite a bit, we can definitely return. And I know we started to at the end of last year is just board member visits to the campus. And so I know a few of you, when you carve out time on your schedule and you want to go to a school other than Black Mountain, because usually you know the school where your kids went or where you worked, and we can set that up. I'd love to go with you. If I can't go, we'll make sure the principal's there. That way you can walk the school, you can have conversations with staff and students and interact in passing time. I think that's very powerful, you know, when board members are available, or, you know, we can make a calendar, or, you know, any of those visits to get out with staff and students.
Not that anybody asked for my opinion on this, but since we have, you know, some new people on campuses, I think it would be beneficial for all of us to like commit at some time. I wouldn't say the first month, because it's a little crazy the first month, but sometime in the first quarter that we all go and visit these campuses. You know, we've got new principals, new assistant principal, and so, you know, just to be there and, hey, this is who I am, is important.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, also to look at that, board relationships with the administrative staff. Miss Lynch and Mr. Leedy, I mean, Mr. Leedy's barely been here a year and he'll be gone. And it's like, it's been a pleasure sitting next to you for a year, and I wish you the best. But I'm looking forward to Ms. Rodriguez coming over here, and then I'll get her caught up to speed real quick. But, it's been tough too with the COVID and new people coming into the district. So I think that gives us now, with the restrictions being lifted and moving on to the new school year, I think we'll give the board members a chance to, get to know not just Ms. Rodriguez and Ms. Lynch, but the rest of our new administrative people, our new directors and that. And it's, we've got just a thumbnail sketch of them, and we introduced everybody that could attend a meeting as we were approving them. But I'm excited to really see what they can do in their new positions, and like Member Busby said, if we get a chance to get a quick visit, we don't want to tie up a lot of time, but just to walk in and say hi and how you doing, I think is important.
Yeah, I think that's very doable. Member Brown and the board is, I sometimes I fool myself into, hey, when I go on campus, hey, you guys just do your thing, act like it's normal, but that's not normal for the principal. They're going to stop everything to be with me and for that time. So the same thing goes for a board member when you're on campus. So, but we can be very strategic. So you guys aren't going to be there 2 hours. You're not even going to be there an hour. You're not even going to be there 30 minutes, but we could make where you go and say hi to the principal, meet with them, do a quick walk around the campus, interact with people, and then also be mindful of your schedule. Because the principal's going to want to, we want them to be able to run their school and do their stuff. We don't want to get in their way, but we can do that very strategically with their schedule and with yours. So that way the board's out there interacting with the staff, getting to know the principals, spending time. And again, I think this year we just had the belt on really tight, with COVID.
Well,
So.
and all the new hires, it would kind of been really difficult anyways. So I think it's a perfect time.
Giving them the opportunity when you do go to visit and, what do you want to see? Well, show me something that you're really happy about what's going on here. Show me what you're really proud of on your campus, and just leave it at that. It would be a great thing for them to be able to do.
Yeah, and Member Fortney, and let's say we come up with a schedule where we do the coffee with court or coffee with the superintendent, and 2 board members come. Maybe as part of that, maybe when it's over, we spend 30 minutes just talking to the principal and walking into a few classes.
Oh, that'd
that way
be
it's
great.
nice for your schedule, and it's nice and, so that way it's just kind of done, and you can and the principal can show off a program or a classroom at the beginning of the day, or.
Yeah, that'd be fun.
So it's steak and eggs with Dr. Monroe? Is that what I heard? You heard that, didn't you?
Are you grilling?
The school district used to have a big grill. I'm sure we can find it.
I'll make the eggs.
We can rock and roll with that.
Well, it's funny you say that, Member Brown. One thing I've been talking to Mrs. Quinn about is we're going to pull out the grill this year, and I'm going to go and cook for the staff. And so maybe we could also plan where some board members do that, because we have 7 schools. So in the fall, we're going to schedule 7 days where I go out and I'll just put on the apron and we'll cook lunch for the staff. That way I can interact with everybody and just thank them, and they get a free lunch. But maybe the board can come along too. We'll give you an apron, or a board member or 2. We can split up the schools. That way you guys are out there, and so maybe we could also be when it cools down a little bit. Yeah. But we'll be mindful of the schedule, and Mr. Fortney can do these 2 schools. Janet can do So that'd be fun.
We don't need to cook, do we? Because you don't want me cooking on a grill.
Oh, you guys
That would be
okay?
one way to-
It's flipping burgers or dogs or.
I'm not a grill cooker.
But yeah, we can do something like that too, just pending your availability and what you guys want to be able to do. That would be really easy.
That'd be great. Okay, board relationship to instructional program. This was a little tricky for me because we didn't do a whole lot on curriculum, I didn't feel, unlike the previous year. But let's see. We do, as we've seen, we receive reports and presentations from all areas, which is, I find very beneficial. They rotate through, and we get a look at things, so that's been really good, especially with COVID. You know, we really relied on them coming to us, but it's worked out real well.
You know, COVID created an opportunity to introduce a new platform for learning, which was AOE. You know, several years ago, we had a discussion about having flipped classrooms. And it was a great discussion, and I'm sitting here thinking, hey, this would be a great idea. You know, it maximizes a learning opportunity or the hands-on doing in the classroom because the student's at home basically listening to the lecture. And that, unfortunately, really didn't go anywhere. But now, when COVID entered, it was like, oh, now we're going to go get creative again. And so, you know, I look at it as, okay, if we keep AOE as a truly viable option, that's great. But there's other options that we can think about, because the next time some pandemic comes around, we don't want to be caught short. So how do we structure our curriculum and our delivery so that if something should happen, that students aren't able to come to the actual school building, their learning isn't going to be totally interrupted to the point where it's going to be huge amounts of learning loss.
Yes, and so is the district plan, I don't want to get off and, you know, venture into open meeting law violations, so I probably shouldn't ask that question. I will refrain from asking what I was going to.
I would say, President Hatcher and members of the board, I think this is one, at least in my short 6 months here, where a lot of the the board's relationship to the instructional program has been limited, just with all the day-to-day COVID things we've been dealing with and not having access to the campuses and the teachers. Also, don't forget just the transition of teaching and learning department to educational services. There's a lot of factors. So I do think there'll be a lot more opportunities to have those discussions, to have those presentations. It's really important to me that the board has all the data that you guys need to be able to make good decisions. But I think we've just been fighting to keep our schools open and get through day to day and do a lot of difficult things. But so I think naturally this one will improve. I could see where this one would be a needs improvement, just because there just simply hasn't been the chance while I've been here to have a lot of those things and not have a 6 or 7 hour board meeting.
It was hard last spring when the shutdown happened and we had to pivot to the online teaching. And, you know, maybe shame on me for not being 100% up to speed with all the different platforms that the district uses. And it took me a while to, you know, I had my cheat sheet there, and it took me a while to figure out, all right, teachers are using this and students are signing on with this one. And it was a real bowl of spaghetti for a while. And if we can, moving forward, have a contingency plan if in case, you know, something should happen to one of our facilities, earthquake, fire, flood, whatever. We've had a flood. Knock on wood, we haven't had a fire. But just to maybe have something in our back pocket, you know, we can pull out the emergency plan, and with a little tweaking, we can rock and roll and get the kids back up. Because if, you know, we had a flood incident at Desert Sun, and it was a bit of a scramble, I think, to try to figure out what to do with the students and the staff until we could get in there. And obviously with water, we had mold, and, you know, there was some other issues. But I don't think that's not a bad idea to have that plan in place. But to go back to my bowl of spaghetti with all the platforms, I think we need to make sure we're clean and efficient. And I think with the switch and the shutdown last March, I think we really weren't our best. And I'm sorry I'm excluding the new board members or newest board members, but it was a bit of a struggle. And then we're doing the meetings on call, And that, you know, we were all new doing that too. So I just, you know, instructional program, I think we need to make sure we're squared up for what the teachers need and what the students need, and make sure that, you know, we're providing that process electronically, you know, even moving forward with our programs, so.
Yes, and so will the new teachers know how we do things? Because I think the teachers who have been here now throughout the whole year, as Member Brown said, in March, that was difficult, and even they would admit the delivery was not good. But they were able to improve over the summer. So anybody that's a new teacher would need to know and be prepared in the event, hopefully we don't have it, that we're faced with that this fall, yeah, and they'd be able to pivot like that.
Yep.
Yeah. So are y'all thinking about that?
Well, yes, I think, well, no, yes. Well, yeah, no, we will and we are. But yeah, one thing the pandemic has taught us all is those contingency plans, and we've all become a lot more able to change on a dime. And maybe it's like Member Brown says, it's less clunky. You know, it's just we're able to revert and go into it. I think we've learned a lot about ourselves, learned a lot about our systems and our organization. And I think teachers too. And I think sometimes maybe we've surprised ourselves about how well we pulled it off. You know, sometimes we sell ourselves short. But yeah, after getting over a few little clunky things, then you're like, hey, this is really working. You know, it may not be the best thing, but it's working, and it's a good alternative. So yeah, those contingency plans, A, B, C, and D, I mean, just being prepared, right? As a former Boy Scout, the motto is be prepared. So yeah, I mean, now the pandemic has all prepared us very much so. So heaven forbid a flood happened or something, but now we've experienced COVID, so you can't even really say heaven forbid anymore because things just happen.
Yeah.
So
You know, I envision something where it's just not, okay, contingents A, B, and C are sitting on the shelf, and okay, we need to go find a contingency plan because of whatever. You know, how we deliver instruction in the classroom, I kind of feel like it's forever changed across the country. And, you know, nobody has the perfect solution at this point because everybody's in trial and error, but it's really an opportunity to be very dynamic and innovative and really expand the depth of what our kids can be taught if we really think about what we've had access to and the tools and the resources that we have. How do we maximize those? And if we figure out how to maximize it or use it to a greater potential, that contingency plan isn't really a contingency plan. It's just we're just moving it over here a little bit instead of you showing up in the classroom. That's all.
Yeah, and hopefully the teachers have been consulted because they're gonna be the ones who know the best what worked and what didn't work, why it worked, why it doesn't work. And so, you know, it seems pretty logical to me that administration would ask them. And I know we asked for that before, but, you know, if I were a principal, I'd really want to know specific answers to what worked and what didn't work.
That goes back to that community kind of stakeholder sort of thing. Mm-hmm. You know, maybe we have one just for teachers.
Yeah.
Or, you know, we figure out different groups, but it's always good to keep your pulse on what works, what doesn't work, and what the perception is.
Right. Okay. The next category, that's the Mr. Leedy category.
It was horrible.
Board in relationship to financial management of schools.
Awful. Worst CFO we've ever had. Good thing he's leaving.
When is he leaving?
We're telling you, don't let the door.
Yeah, don't let the door hit you on the way out. You know what, Mr. Leedy, you've had the best presentations. They're nice to look at, for one, but they're also very informative and they're very easy for the general population to understand, which is huge, especially given the financial predicament that we've found ourselves in. So thank you.
Yeah, it makes our job a lot easier when those reports are written like yours are and presented. It really makes it far easier.
Yeah, I think that you're able to educate while also showing numbers is huge. I got to accompany Mr. Leedy and Dr. Monroe at a real estate breakfast where he was also giving information about the bond and budget. And you just see the light kind of click when they hear his presentation. So well done.
And I would compliment the board. I think the board asks very good questions. A lot of times this is what people see. People don't see all the work that you do behind the scenes or the questions that you ask me and all the homework that you guys do. But you ask very good financial questions and programmatic questions. And let's face it, school finance is complicated. And there's a real gift in people like Mr. Leedy and Mrs. Rodriguez because they're able to break it down into terms that people can really wrap their head around because it really is a complicated business. And some people you can explain it to and they still don't get it. They just think there's one pot of money and everything comes out of there and you should be able to do this and do that. And it's a lot more complicated. So, but I'd compliment the board. I appreciate the board always doing their homework and asking questions. We always talk about asking questions before the meeting and making sure we're prepared and making sure you guys get the answers that you need so that you can make an educated vote based on your conscience. And I appreciate Mr. Leedy and look forward to Mrs. Rodriguez working with her on that.
On that topic of we ask questions, I know some of the questions that are asked really can't be published, but is there a way to publish the questions that we ask? Because over the course of my tenure on this board, I've had different members of the community be like, well, you guys don't ever ask questions. And it's like, well, we've already asked a question, we got answers to it. Well, how do we know as the public that, A, you're asking questions, or how do we get that same information? You asked the question, but as the community, we don't know what the answer was. So is there a way, or is there something that prohibits some of those questions from being published? If there's just like a tab on our website.
Any thoughts,
questions or
Tim? I'm
something.
kind of drawing a blank. What do you think on that?
Actually, this may be one place I'm one step ahead of you because I've asked when I had my directors meetings last week and the month before, one of the things that I've been telling them about is, guys, we've got to tell our story. And that is in the means of sending information into finance so that we can put it on the finance webpage of, hey, transportation's doing this, IT is doing that, maintenance is doing this. So people get a snapshot of what we're doing, and there's no reason why the board couldn't have a page of questions from the board. And we have a page on the website under the board section so that they can see questions and answers from the board. We could do that. So we can condense those down if you'd like, and the questions that we have answers to, then we could just put them in simple bullet format, question, answer, and so people can go out there and read to see what the threads are that the board is asking of the administration, and that's another way to get the information out there. So, it's possible we could do that.
That's a good idea. And another thing I do, Dr. Monroe would know this, in my questions, I will say to the superintendent, I intend to ask this in public. Also, not for my benefit because, the superintendent's already asked me, and not for y'all's benefit because you've seen what I've asked and what he has said back to me, but for the public's benefit, not that they're hanging with bated breath looking to see what we're doing either, but at least they know, like you said, they know we're asking questions. They know we're engaged.
And, generally, we don't have standing room only.
Right.
If it's an elementary school doing their presentation, we have lots of people and then they leave. Then we have 5.
Yeah.
But at different points in time, community members will, whatever reason, want to research the heck out of what's the board doing. And really, the only information they get is whatever's in the board book, but that really doesn't tell the whole story. And I've wondered this for a long time. Well, I'm asking questions, but other than people sitting on the board, nobody knows what I asked. And it would be great for the board, it'd be great for the district, and it would be, I guess, you know, not this shouldn't be construed the wrong way, but it creates an element of transparency. You know, we have nothing to hide, you know? So I asked Jeff what size shoes he wears, you know? Now we know he wears a size 15.
Well, we do, I know we put out a board bits, that little one-page newsletter or info that comes out on the website after the meeting. And at first, I always thought that was because of the law that you had to have something out there 3 days after the meeting, because it just kind of hits the highlights. But if we could tie into this, you know, board bits and Q&A section, kind of all, you know, just so people can tab on that and say, oh, well, they were talking about, you know, they were talking about this subject, and let's see what, you know, were their board questions going into the meeting. So as long as it doesn't violate anything, that would be the, you know.
Yeah,
and I
that's-
don't know with the open meeting law,
I don't know if there's some kind
if there's, yeah, what the particulars
Yeah,
might
and
be
we
with
can
that.
and we can consult with legal and ASBA, and I'm sure there's other districts are doing things that we're just not thinking of. I was just drawing a blank. That's why I looked at Tim. But we can come back to the board. I'm sure that there's ways where we can stay legal and above the table and okay with open meeting law and do that. Maybe it's board bits, or maybe it's just on the web page. But there's probably a way that we can do it that another district's already doing
Is
that we
there
could
a
learn from.
way to have, like, you know how like you can go to, you know, a website and, you know, go to customer support and you can type in your question and then somebody answers it, but is there a way to have like that published? You know, somebody's asking, well, how come, you know, elementary school starts at this time when it seems like, you know, it would be better if, you know, high school and elementary school were flipped because high school kids like to sleep later, so why don't they start at 9 o'clock?
I've thought of that.
That's actually been a topic that's come up before.
I think, yeah, again,
early.
back to my point, I think there's things we can look at, whether it's a frequently asked questions or a Q&A or a list of, here is some of the board questions attached to this board meeting, both during the meeting and before the meeting, and then just a nice, concise, succinct answer, just to keep us out of trouble with open meeting law or anything like that, or, you know, make sure it aligns with what happened in the meeting. I'm sure that's out there, and we can find that out.
Yeah, I appreciate that you do that, Beth. I try to do that as well, especially if it's a question that I've asked and it gave a different perspective, just so that also gives the community that other perspective as well.
I just want to say one more thing about the funding issue is, you know, the budget to a great extent, it's out of our control. I mean, it is kind of out of our control. But the teachers they do such a good job at doing their job with the resources they have, because, you know, we all know teachers spend a lot of money in their own classrooms, and so I applaud our teachers doing what they do with a limited budget.
Well, especially this year when you couldn't have volunteers in the room helping you, or any, you know, any other parent support.
Yeah.
That had to be tough.
Yeah,
Had to
exactly.
be tough.
Okay, G, adherence to governing board operating principles.
Well, I would say just the fact that we're doing this is a very positive thing. Because this is actually a very beneficial conversation.
It is beneficial.
And it's, you know, regardless of who the 5 people are that are sitting here, it's 5 people that are 5 unique individuals. And everybody brings something different to the board. And having an opportunity to have a little peek into where whoever comes from is beneficial, because it sort of puts things in perspective. You may say something and it's like, oh, yeah, she was a teacher, and okay, I get that. Or, you know, whatever it is, it helps the group be more cohesive and work better in positive ways. And so I think operationally we'd be good so far.
Yeah, and these red bullet points are mine, and this big long one. It's difficult to build collaborative relationships due to open meeting laws, you know, because when we sit up here, we're doing business. We're not up here to get to know one another, and it's unfortunate the way it works, and there's nothing we can do about it. So, you know, I really wish there was another way around that. So, you know, despite that, I think we've done a really good job.
In the past, we've had board retreats. Some have been good, some have been bad. Some of them have actually been really kind of fun. But it's, you know, anytime there's an opportunity to have a conversation that's really not, I don't want to say business related, but, you know, we're not sitting here talking about the budget. We're not talking about,
agenda driven.
yeah, you know, this is an open-ended conversation, and it's beneficial. And to, you know, I think that was one of the big takeaways from having a board retreat, is that it was really very open-ended, and it was an opportunity to try to come together as a group.
Well, if we roll into something with Dr. Monroe at the school sites, that will be a step in the right direction. Just, you know, if 2 board members and Dr. Monroe are there, and at least get a chance as we're talking, if there's not a large number of parents that roll in there, that gives us a chance to at least talk on non-agenda specific items. I mean, we still have to be aware of anything that may come up or has come up in a past meeting, but I still think just to be able to sit for an hour and have a cup of coffee is not a bad thing. Or drink of your choice if coffee's not your morning drink.
I do think that, again, just learning all that there is to learn here, and seeing all that is needed to be done. And then you go through all these policies that are out here, and you're looking at all this stuff, and you're like, mine does start to spin a little bit, but then you get here and you see what's happening, and you get into the routine of what's going on, and you see how it's being done. It gives you some comfort that we're on the right track. We're doing things, you know, when we're going through all those adherence things. I was like, yeah, we do that. It looks good. So I think that we're definitely on the right track. It's a good combination of people from all different, like you said, 5 different personalities and coming from different places, but with the main objective of doing what's best for the students and the teachers and this community. I think we're doing a great job, and so I'm really thrilled at how things are going right now.
I would agree, and I think this type of conversation and reflection helps us be better, helps the board and the superintendent team be better, and helps us be more intentional. You know, consensus obviously isn't 5-0, and there's certainly things that board members don't agree with each other on. However, I've been very proud of the board in this meeting, that there's been respectful dialogue and everything's been civil and cordial. I think our community really appreciates that when it's a unified board. Sometimes you may be on a nay vote where it didn't go the way that you thought it would. However, collectively as a board, you support the voice of the board because that's the authority. So I've been really proud of the board the first 6 months as a new superintendent that I never expect 5-0 on everything because everyone's very unique and has different perspectives. However, we move forward with the will of the board because that's the consensus, which isn't necessarily 100%. So I would just compliment each one of you, and I do think that there's things that we will do to improve as a superintendent and a board team, but I'm very proud of where we are. And again, these kind of things help us be better. Those coffees, those little instances. Remember, Joe Q Public, doesn't understand that you guys don't go out and interact with one another. That's just not common understanding. They don't know that.
You made a comment in your superintendent comments that you're looking forward to a new normal, I think is how you put it. A better normal. And the really cool thing is, since, this was a strange school year, normal, there is no definition to normal now.
Reset.
And it is. And so, a lot of times when you change things, there will be people who push back because it's not the way that we did it before. But, the way we did it before really kind of was a flat line because it was such a odd school year that this new normal is going to be really whatever it is.
As someone that's gone through this year as a teacher, just seeing how much we've had to do, how much we've had to change and do things that they thought that there was no way we were going to be able to do. Especially where I work, we were not in person for the majority of the year, and teaching special ed kids on a computer is not as easy as it sounds.
I don't know how you can teach special ed.
And but you have to be flexible, and you have to be able to see what's going on from all these different perspectives and take that in. And then I think that's helped me here too, because now, again, I think of the idea of, since I'm a teacher, I kind of tend to look at things sometimes through that lens sometimes. You can't help it when you're in that. But to actually be here, then you have to kind of go and broaden that, and you have to look at everything. And so that's been really helpful for me. And like I said, going through all these things, you're like, wow, we're doing a pretty damn good job with this stuff. And we are doing it in a dynamic situation where you don't know what will be happening next month. The things were happening in my district on a day-to-day basis. We didn't know on Friday what we were going to be doing Monday. So it prepares you for everything. So yeah, normal is out the window now. So it's a riot.
And I put this in my thing, but, three of us began together, and we took a courageous vote, I believe. And it was unanimous for that board, as y'all know. And popular with some, highly unpopular with the staff. And so it was hard. I found it difficult. I don't know about Scott and Janet, but we courageously did what we felt was best. And I have no regrets, despite the fact that some of my friends were not happy with me. I think we made the decision that was best for students. And we have a new superintendent in the middle of the year. We're dealing with these budget things, and y'all came on, picked up on that. So it has been a bizarre year. We've dealt with things that other boards haven't dealt with, because Cave Creek did lead, one of the few school districts that led with the opening, new superintendent, and COVID. So, wow, here it is June, and
can we throw something else in there too? I mean, we're on this roll of throwing everything, including the kitchen sink in there. I mean, you're right, we have weathered one heck of a storm. And, walking into it, it was like a hurricane. And there are friendships that will probably never be the same again. But as you've pointed out, the decision that we made was for what was going to be best for our kids. And that's why we're in business to begin with, is for our kids. It's not to minimize the work that the teachers do, because it's a symbiotic relationship. But I don't think any decision we've ever made has been intentionally to undermine or hurt anyone.
Now, I had bumped into one of our second grade teachers about this time a year ago, and out at a restaurant, and had a nice discussion with her, and she's like, "Don't worry about the kids. You get them in school." She goes, "The teachers will do their job. The teachers will take care of the kids, and we'll find the ones that need a little extra help, and we'll get them all going in the right direction." And I always kind of kept that in the back of my head, saying, that's one of our teachers telling me that, saying, and as my kids came up through the district, I always thought we had the best teachers. They care about the kids, and they would do anything and everything for them. And it was easy to be a parent volunteer and spend an afternoon making copies or being on a field trip or just whatever they need. So I always kept that in the back of my head, saying, you know what, I believed in that teachers telling me that, because it's like we needed to make that decision for the kids, and it was a good decision, and I'm proud that the district was able to stay open. I know some districts tried and had to close back up and went back and forth, and I think that would have just been terrible for the kids and for the staff. This week we're teaching, next week we're online, now we're back in person. We had some bumpy weeks there once we got going, but I think it was a good decision, and I'm proud of that we were able to do that and stay open was important.
I'm very glad that we're on this side of that decision now.
Boy, isn't that the truth? Wow.
I feel so sad for some of the districts that struggled all year and tried and just never could get back. And I know I'm sure you all read still stories on your internet inbox. There's still districts that are struggling so bad. There's some that the kids tried to go back. They didn't go back till March or April, went back for the last few weeks. And it's like, man, that's just so tough. And it's like to at least have the kids in the classroom, I think, was so important.
Our teachers should be really proud of the work that they did. It was a tough year, and it was not an ideal situation, environment, whatever, but our teachers did a remarkable job, and they've been extremely professional, and they've remained focused on our kids. And I have a great deal of gratitude goes out to all of our educators, because they've really gone above and beyond.
Yes, they have. Yep.
Yay to the teachers.
Indeed.
Teachers and
Now,
staff.
make sure you put that in the minutes.
Yeah, teachers and staff, because it needed to be a total effort.
Exactly.
Everybody in the
Food service, transportation, support staff, the whole 9 yards, man.
Yep.
So, anyway, okay.
Did we get to the end? I
gotta
think
do
we did, because that was spinning up and down really fast here.
Agenda items now.
Okay, all right, that was good, thank you. Item 8, future agenda items, there are none. Item 9, upcoming calendar. Dr. Monroe, do you have anything you'd like to comment on?
President Hatcher, members of the board, believe it or not, the first day of school is August the 4th. September 6th will be Labor Day, and September the 7th will be our fall recess, so it'll be here before we know it.
That's first day of in-person school. Yay.
So early. All right, thank you.
Refer to it as in-person.
Wow, yeah. All righty, item 10, adjournment. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Abstained? Motion carries. Meeting adjourned.